Hello guys, I am back from another video and today we're talking about deku was Typhon. So, in the last video deku, we're not going to say anything too specific, but let's just say after Izuku just wakes up, Izuku realizes that he had, fun time with four girls. These four girls were Ochako Uraka being his stepsister, technically. Then there's Bakugo Katsuki, Momoya Yorozu, and Shoto Todoroki. After Izuku wakes up and also leaves quietly and also made breakfast for them, they realize that the girls, or specifically the girls just realized that the rubbers were basically broken. Take a guess what rubbers are. So, apparently Momo said that she wanted to get pregnant by Izuku's seed because apparently her parents forced her to. Apparently they want to have a really strong child, so because Izuku's the first boy with a quirk, or not a quirk because, they realized that Izuku is technically the god of all monsters, so yeah, that's how she got pregnant, technically. And that is why she basically had to break all of the, rubbers. So yeah, all of the girls were basically terrified that they're probably going to be pregnant at a pretty young age. And by the way, they're technically 18 in this universe, so yeah, please don't, mate, please. Anyway, so when Izuku gets to the facility, Izuku checks out the rest of his monsters, which are growing pretty fast. Two of the monsters, or many of the monsters that Izuku created from his, limbs that he chopped off, they're now basically infants. But some of them already grown to their, almost adult. Not really adult, it's more like their, adolescent stages, I guess. They're basically like the size of like a normal human. Specifically, the size of an adult male and female. Specifically, they literally have genders basically. So after Izuku goes into the room, they bow down as they say, "It's nice to see you, father." So after telling them to wear their brand new armor and also go to their barracks, Izuku decides to make a general for their army for the war very soon. So, when Izuku gets to a conclusion, Izuku decides to make the Learning Hydra, which is one of Izuku's true children, made by him, back when he was still Typhon, and back when he was still, you know, still married to Echidna when she was still alive. So, Izuku decides to try and make, the Learning Hydra, but this time getting inspiration from the great snake or dragon known as Yamata Onorochi. At least I'm, or at least what I think is the pronunciation. Just don't judge me. So, when Izuku decides to go outside to get some more inspiration, Izuku finds a shrine dedicated to the yokai known as Tamamo no Mai. And you probably know her from Fate or Fate Extra. So, apparently she's one of the, three top, the three most powerful yokai, apparently. I can't remember the other one, but I already know two of them. Specifically, her herself being Tamamo no Mai and Shuten Doji, which you probably know as another character from, Fate Grand Order, but except not being a lolly, but instead a gigantic ass man Oni. He's a boy in this universe. And also an actual mythology. Anyway, so because I've forgotten the real name of that, yokai, or the third most powerful yokai, I'm deciding to change him to Yamata Onorochi. So, yeah. So, after meeting Tamamo no Mai, she explains that apparently there's a war at the moon. Apparently, three, or should I say four, gods are actually fighting for the moon. Specifically, the Japanese god of the moon being Tsukuyomi, the goddess of the moon in Greek mythology being Artemis, and two other gods. Or should I say a god and a goddess, being... God dang it. Sorry about that. I just got a, big itch. Sorry. And apparently, two other gods, or should I say a god and a goddess, and their names were apparently pretty confusing. Their names were Nyx, the goddess of the night, and Erebus, the goddess of darkness, or god of darkness. So, apparently they're fighting over the moon because they want to have superiority over the moon. But they were also attacked by another goddess, or or whatever. They don't know the true name of this goddess or whatever, but she prefers to call herself the Queen of the Moon or the Queen of the Heavens. And she literally obliterated them, and they're still having their war. So she wanted to ask Izuku for their help, or should I say, his help, because he's after all the embodiment of all monsters, or the literal, like, father of all monsters. So they want their help. So, Izuku accepts. As Izuku leaves, as Izuku was, well, leaving, apparently Shuten Doji has been hiding in the forest. Apparently he was super afraid of Izuku's power and his aura, because it's definitely not monstrous or demonic or godly. It's something else. Including, well, Tamamo no Mai even is afraid of her, like, afraid of his power, but she still keeps a calm face, but basically inside she's absolutely terrified that Izuku might crush her in an instant. So after they leave a single piece of fur. So that's basically what happened last episode, and I just realized that the explanation was pretty long. About like 6 minutes. Either way, so let's talk about what happens next. So, it's basically nighttime right now. So, Izuku gets out of his bed and starts going outside by climbing out the window because Izuku doesn't want to let anybody know that he's going somewhere. So, when Izuku gets out, Izuku started leaving to go to the shrine of Tamamo no Mai. After Izuku gets there, Izuku sees that she's already there with the rest of the big three of monsters, being Yamata Onorochi, taking the form of a young man, like maybe like 8 years old. And for Shuten Doji takes the form of a pretty old man, maybe like in his 30s or something, as Izuku just says this. So you must be Yamato Norochi and Shuten Doji. As Shuten Doji says this. Correct. Need some more sake. As Yamato Norochi just says this. I told you just shut up. After all, he is more powerful than us. As he says this. Oh, come on, he might be a great drinking buddy. As Izuku just says this. I mean, he's not wrong, but I'm technically a minor now, so I can't really drink sake. As he says this. Ah, either way, let's just go to the moon already. As Tamamo says this. Right. So, she puts something onto the ground. A seal. As they were teleported to the moon. Or at least, a interpretation of the moon. Which is a gigantic kingdom. Filled with several... Wait for a second. Several cities. Almost like it's super futuristic. As Izuku sees the ensuing fight, Izuku sees two specific figures running right beside each other. As Izuku recognizes them as Nyx and Erebus, as they were fighting Tsukuyomi. Tsukuyomi is using his gigantic fans made out of the pure light of the moon, as he says this. You dare to get near me, you damn mongrels! As he started wait for a second. As he gets both of his fans and creates a gust of light, or like a slash of light, as it cuts through Erebus. As Erebus reforms as he says this. That damn kid. As Artemis comes up as she shoots an arrow right in the chest of Nyx, as she says this. Do you really think that you can actually beat me? I am a titan. I'm technically your grandfather. or grandmother or whatever. I mean, we're technically fused together. As Ariba says this, yes, we're technically fused to our legend. But ever since we were free, let's just say we can have some fun tearing you apart for what you did. As Artemis says this, I don't really give a fuck anymore. I don't really care about my father. The only thing I care about is getting some fun out of you two. As the girl appears again, being the so-called Queen of the Moon, as she says this, you damn plebeians. As she shoots out tons and tons of these moon-like blades, which started, well, pummeling to the ground of the moon and started destroying it. As Izuku sees that... Wait for a second. Tsukuyomi's in trouble, as Izuku starts running forward and blocks the attack from, well, from this goddess. As he says this, ugh, what in the... Wait for a second. What in the... As Izuku looks and says this, so, how are you? As Tsukuyomi says this, who are you, you damn mongrel? As Izuku says this, mongrel? As he says this, wait, you're one of these Greek gods, or whatever. What type of Greek god are you? A god of agriculture? Agriculture? A god of war? A god of whatever? As Izuku just says this. I'm not technically a god, I'm more of a... As Izuku just... Like, Izuku gets shot right in the head by another blast of this so-called goddess's, well, moonblades. Moonblades, I meant. As he says this. Or she. You damn monster. Do you really think that you can actually beat... As Izuku's head starts regrowing. As Izuku just says this. Ugh, seriously? So, I'm guessing that you're the so-called Queen of the Heavens, I believe. As he says this. Or she. Correct. I am Astarte, the goddess of the moon. I was a bit tired of my lifetime being trapped by this so-called true god. As Izuku just says this. Let me guess. Yahweh? As she says this. Correct. She called our religion, our realm, our ways of life treacherous, traitorous, and heresy, when his is nothing more than prideful. As Ezekiel just says this, you kind of remind me of myself back in the day. Either way, you need to get away from here, because I would rather if you don't fight. Because if you do, guess I'll have to destroy you. As she says this, try and beat me. As she starts creating blades made out of the moon itself. As Izuku just says this, very well. As Izuku starts transforming into a half, like, his bottom half becomes like a centaur, basically, but except of a horse's, like, bottom half, or, like, I meant like a horse body as the bottom half. Instead, it's like some sort of drake, which is a flightless dragon, but its top half becomes armored, and almost looking like a, Dolaham's armor. He also gains, like, claws, and also his helmet becomes similar to, like, a, Viking helmet, but without the horns, because in actual historic mythology, they don't really have horns. Izuku decided to transform into this because he thinks it's cool. So, Izuku starts charging forward as Izuku gets ready to slash at the enemy, being Astarte, which she calls herself. As Izuku gets, well, when Izuku slashes her, she doesn't fall down. Instead, she says this, "That's the best that you can do? Very well, take this. This is my rage. The rage that I felt for Zeus. The rage that I felt for Aoi." As Izuku just says this. I knew it. So, I'm guessing that your so-called Astarte name is not your true name. As she says this. Huh? As Izuku just says this, I just realized Astarte was a goddess. Apparently, she was a pagan goddess. But after the church's reforms, and also finding out about your religion, they decided to twist your so-called morals and also your religion, turning you into something else. Your true name is Astaroth, the Great Duke of Hell. As she says this. I guess you're correct. After my story has been changed, my body changed as well. As her body starts changing, her body starts becoming more demonic. Instead of that holy looking face that she used to have, instead is replaced with an ugly hag-like face. Her wings, instead of becoming this usual blue, like almost like iridescent color like the moon, it becomes red like brimstone. As she says this, now die! Izuku dodges the attack initially, but Izuku gets one of his centaur like legs broken. So Izuku transforms back into his more humanoid form. Izuku started using his wings to fly. As while Izuku was fighting her, well, let's just move on to a different perspective. So, we go to a different perspective. This perspective is where the gang of, well, Ares is currently being held at. Apparently, they captured some children. As the gang says this, "Oi, can you stop crying?" As they say this, "We just want to see our mommy again." As he says this, "Just shut the hell up." As Ares says this, the leader of the children of Ares. As he says this, "Shut up." As they say this, "Yes, my lord." As he says this, "Oi. I'm guessing that you're the children that I captured, or at least my men captured. Nice to meet you. You can call me Ares, and I'm going to become your new foster father now." As they say this, "What?" As he says this, "Yeah, my men were a bit too, rough." As they just looked and said this, "We were sorry, we didn't mean to shoot her." As he says this, "Likely story. Either way, I'm gonna become your brand new foster father. And besides, people calling me a horrible person and a bad person, I didn't want to become a bad person. I don't even want to become the god of war in the first place. I want to become a god of agriculture. I meant a god of agriculture, I meant. If you don't know what is agriculture, well, it's basically like the, gardening basically, and other things that are associated with like that. I don't know. Let's just move on." They say this, "Yes, Mr. Ares." As he says this, As one of the kids said this, "What happened to mommy?" As he says this, "Don't worry, she's in a better place or whatever. Either way, I really wanted to become a god of agriculture, but my father decided to turn me into a god of war, and this is what happened. I guess in this brand new life, I still can't, stop being a god of war. Anyway, I didn't want to make a gang. I didn't want to actually become a villain, or whatever, because I actually wanted to become a gardener, a god of agriculture. But I guess it couldn't happen. So I decided to become a fighting ring, even though many people think that I'm probably like a villain. In this brand new day and age, I'm thinking that this world has gone crazy. As they say this, huh? As he says this, either way, I'm not really good with children, so nice to meet you, I guess." He kind of laughs awkwardly as the children say this. Um, oh, Okay, so he brings these children that that, well, you know, like his guards or his like gunmen accidentally killed their mother, and brings them to a little fighting ring, or not really fighting ring, more like the stage of the fighting ring, as they see two people getting ready to fight. As one of them being the ringleader, not really ringleader, it's more like the ringmaster than anything else, as he says this, "Let's get ready to rumble." So yeah, it's basically like WWE. Either way, the people started fighting, basically like pro wrestling, but except actually real, unlike them. Yeah, if you didn't know, pro wrestling isn't actually wrestling. It's just fake wrestling. But a big shocker there. Either way, they basically started fighting as they started using, well, weapons made from the gods, specifically made by Ares, and a bit of help from Hephaestus. As he says this, "Okay, kiddos, you can start watching this. I'm gonna be going somewhere." As they say this, "Whoa, look at that guy. I think he lost his teeth." So, when Ares leaves, he goes to a secret like area, which is filled with, well, weapons galore, and a forging area. As he says this, "So, Hephaestus, how are you doing there?" As he says this, "Either way, I'm not really happy with you, Ares. Ever since you took my wife, ah, my life has been shitty." As he says this, "Hey, come on, it's all in the past. I actually don't want to marry her anymore." As he says this, "Likely story." As he says this, "Come on, I'm really sorry." As he says this, "No, I am not saying sorry to you, and I'm only doing this because I only like making weapons." So, he starts going back to smacking the iron or the hot iron with his hammer, as Ares says this. Huh. Fine then. Hey, Hephaestus." As Hephaestus says this, "What is it, Ares?" As he says this, "Well, I'm maybe planning to disband this group." As he says this, "Really?" As he says this, "Yeah, being being called a villain, even though I'm actually trying to do good for some people, makes me feel mad. Or should I say bad?" As Hephaestus says this, "Finally teaching yourself humility, unlike yourself back in the day." As he says this, "Oh, come on!" Ugh. "Either way, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry for what I did, for taking away your wife, even though she literally approached me first." As Hephaestus says this, "I'm also maybe planning to leave." As he says this, "Wait, really?" As he says this, "Yeah, I'm planning to leave this group for several reasons, and one of them is wanting to give money to many of these children that are disabled like me. Even though my face is no longer monstrous and ugly, I still feel like that inside. And that is why I want to give these children a new life. I want these children to feel happy. That is why I'm creating these prosthetic weapons. Or should I say prosthetic arms and legs, and many other body parts." As Hephaestus says this, "Wait, really?" As he says this, "Yes, they're made from an ambrosia, or at least artificial versions of this metal. Because ambrosia, I meant, wait for a second, sorry about that. Because ambrosia is now technically no longer, like, here, or anything like that, I decided to make an artificial version." As he says this, "It seems to be not as strong." As he says this, "Yeah. So, this brand new prosthetic parts are actually going to be perfect for these children that I'm going to sell it to when I finally leave this group." as Hephaestus says this. So, what you're gonna do next, after you finish giving all of these parts to many of these disabled children? As he says this, I'm maybe going to plan to join these heroes, because they actually feel actually like heroes, unlike the other heroes. The heroes that we made, or should specifically, our father. Wait for a second. Our father made. As Ares says this. Oh yeah, father. As he says. Ever since we were reincarnated, and after realizing that Typhon is still alive, and probably still angry at us for basically working against them, I want to redeem myself. I want to forgive myself for what I did. So that's why I'm planning to become a work study student in UA. So I can give happiness to many people. Unlike back in the day, when I made weapons for chaos and despair, for Zeus's own entertainment, so he can torment and do whatever the hell he wants. I want to save people. I want to protect people. I no longer want to become Zeus's or father's stupid puppet. As Ares says this, I agree. I may be planning to also disband this group. I'm going to disband this group no matter what. And when I do, I'm going to join you, Hephaestus. I'm going to help you. And when we do, and when we find Father, we will defeat him. As he says this. Very well, brother. And by the way, apology not accepted. As he says this. Come on, at least I did a speech or something like that. As he says this. I'm still not forgiving you. So, yeah. After that, we're gonna go to another perspective. Being the perspective of another god. So, let us begin. So, this other perspective was something else. So, we're in a pretty crappy apartment. As a person that looks like a girl was looking at the mirror. As she says this. Or at least saying it in her mind. Being wait for a second again. Sorry about that. So, being reincarnated in this world is weird. These people have quirks. These quirks are basically like magic, but except weaker. And this world is filled with heroes, but heroes that use their power and influence for whatever they want. But many heroes also use that to their advantage, to help people, but many others use it for their own gain. And that is why I'm going to destroy all of the goddamn fake heroes and give the real heroes their chance to shine. My real name is Artemis. Or should I say Athena? Because my sister Artemis originally had my old name, Artemis. I stepped down as that god, and then let my sister, or at least half-sister, let her take the title of Artemis. And that is why I decided to change my name and become the goddess of heroes, Athena. So, I'm now working as a vigilante, protecting heroes, and wait for a second again. I meant, protecting heroes, and protecting truly innocent people. So, brother, Ares, the so-called god of war, I will defeat you, no matter what. And I will bring brother to justice. And then after that, I will find out Father and kill him for what he did. Always using his power for whatever he wants. I will make him pay, no matter what the cost. Wait for a second, guys. Sorry about that, guys. So, Artemis starts going out of the window and started going into her usual vigilante work. Seeing that the moon has been flickering a little bit. The moon is completely visible out in the morning, as several people started getting outside and started taking pictures. As Artemis, or should I say Athena, because Artemis and Athena they have a similar name, so I decided to change it up. Though it's not technically in actual mythology, I'm going to mix it up, similar to Fate. So, wait for a second again, my nose. So, Athena, after seeing the moon out in the morning, she was a bit, weirded out by it, because it's upsetting the natural order of the world. So, she goes to that area where the moon is currently acting weird, or should I say, still seen in the morning. So, she goes into a furious rant. Not really a rant, it's more like using her magic to basically make a portal to there. So, after she makes the portal, she goes into it and goes into the moon and sees Typhon, aka Zuko, fighting against the other gods, including, well, Astarte, but her true name is Astaroth, the Great Duke of Hell. Or, should I say, her true form has been twisted because of religion, and because of her, symbolism has been twisted by the church. She's now turned into a Duke of Hell. So, when Athena saw it, well, wait for a second, she starts standing by Izuku, as Izuku just says this. Wait, Athena, what are you doing here? As she says this. Isn't it obvious? I'm gonna be taking down that monster too. And after hearing that you're acting as a hero, well, I maybe decide to not let you, die here. And also, I'm no longer want to kill you. After all, I have my own agendas, like killing Zeus. Similar to you, eh? As Izuku just says this. I guess you're correct. As Tsukuyomi says this. Alright, whatever you are, or whatever the heck you are, or whatever you damn mongrel, you're always ruining my things, including my own home. That is why I'm gonna defeat you. And get out of my house. Get out of my own land, you damn mongrel. As for, the other gods being Nyx, Erebus, and also, Athena, not Athena, I meant Artemis, they also join into the fight as they get ready to fight Astaroth, the Great Duke of Hell, or at least the twisted perversion of not Artemis, I meant Astarte, being the goddess, or at least Queen of the Moon in the Bible, or heaven in some depictions. So, yeah, this will be the end of the episode because, well, I'm a bit tired. So, yeah, I hope you liked the video, comment and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!